everyone to the Q4 edition of the HRBP Meet Up. This is the last one for 2016. It's going to be very exciting, trust me. When you were coming in, you were given a feedback from Jota and some flyers, and this very small stick note. Was everybody given this? Yeah? Okay, if you were not given this, can you just signify, okay, ma'am, okay, sir. The few employees engaged during this session. So we just want you to write down tips that, or something that might have come to your mind that the organization can do to help employees to be engaged during this season of this session. Just write it on the stick note, and you can come here and paste it, all right, on the flip chart. After the program, we're going to collate everything and send it to every single participant of this program, okay? After having said that, we want to welcome everybody again. Thank you for coming. I hand over to my boss, my guy at the top.
So even Joshua was like, Joshua is the calm, quiet, and the more, bubbly. We all move forward. I know it's after work and you're all sort of tired, but we're here to connect and network. So can you move forward a bit and just get your energy up a little? Is that okay? Yes? Yes. You're not sure? Okay. And if you don't mind, you try and have someone sitting in front of you. If that's also okay. Pricey and important, but the floor is really swaying. Can you please drop that? No one is in front of you. Not your colleague. If your best school from another, there's no one else that won't pay. Good evening, everyone. It's a bit more, and there's food. So even if you can replenish afterwards. We are excited to be here again today. This is our 8th session, 2 years in a row. Woo! We're immensely blessed to be able to put this together, but also very grateful to Stanbic IBTC, the entire team, for hosting us. So this HRBP Meet Up was actually born out of the need for HR, middle managers and senior managers to connect more. We all meet at conferences and some programs, but we're not really connecting. So we all know each other by name. Oh, Ikara, I know you're on LinkedIn. Yeah, by name. Or you used to work in one company or the other, right? But we don't really, if you have issues, who do you call to ask? I mean, imagine, sometimes it takes at least 3 weeks for you to be able to pull information from different industries or even different organizations in your industry, just to be able to provide feedback to some line managers. If you all connect here, I think you can meet 2 or 3 or probably even 10 or 12 people whom you've never met before, and you can at least reach out. We're collectively shaping the profession, and so that's why this was born. And then as we proceeded, we figured that it was important also for you not to pay to attend, and so we got sponsors, and we are so grateful for all our sponsors over the last 2 years. So we started off our first meetup last year, February 3rd. It was sponsored by Unilever. Our second quarter was sponsored by Airtel. Our third quarter was sponsored by Nigerian Breweries. Fourth quarter by Sage. First quarter this year, Unilever. Second quarter, KPMG. Third quarter, Honeywell. And today, Stanbic IBTC. So it's coming around. It's coming around to the organization, your organization, okay? I was going to say, like the company next door. That's your organization. And we're so excited. We're really grateful to them for giving us this really cozy venue in Koyi, which also helps some of our mainland team join us, because it's usually a challenge for people who are on the mainland. Anyone from the mainland? Yay! Okay, so we have a few. Are you mainland? You're like in between. Okay, so we'll start off really by this is what we birthed this program with, the networking, speed networking session, but we broke out into other different ways to connect them over the course of the year. So we brought it back again as we end the year. So sort of like, I think it's been a winner. People who have experienced this before and sort of like connected with people in the past, can you signify by raising your hand? Like you've sat in one of these meet-up sessions where you had people sitting opposite each other and you're able to connect with people afterwards. Yes? Yes? 2 people? 3? 5? Okay, a couple. Thanks. Alright, so we're going to start off with that for 5 minutes. Is it 5, Mr. Joshua, or 10? 15 minutes. Oh, for 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, so he's going to blow a whistle. Every time you hear the whistle, you're going to have, so the even, so odd numbers don't move, even numbers move. So this is row, row, row. So we have 1, 3, and 5. Just sit pretty for now. For now. And then we have row 2, 4, and 6 move. So every time you hear the whistle, you just move one up. So Carol moves to Tony moves to Oreste, Ore moves to Akinsi, or whoever comes in between that valley there, and then like that. If we do that for 15 minutes, then we'll have our guest speaker come on. Is that okay? Good. Is that okay? Good. You need some music? No. Yes? Only type of music? No music? No music? You're not even voices. Music, hands up. No music. So, okay, so only one person doesn't want music. Well, how are you going to connect also? I mean, okay, for neutral, because it seems like the people are in between. Male, female, or what? I don't get it. There's no middle ground. At least here, yeah? No? Well, if we played music, how would you connect?
Very
really background, your target has got us, I think. Alright, so who is not moving? What row is not moving? Just raise your hand, we know you're not moving. Okay, so they get it. Alright, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're about to start. After 3 minutes, I'll blow my whistle and then we move. Is it okay?
So yeah, for first timers, yeah. So I'm just going to say like the video. So here's what. For those who have come before, you know the drill. For those who it's your first time or you have sort of like forgotten. So second you move, introduce yourself. I work here. This is my company. Whatever you want to share in terms of interest, you know, you can share. What do you do? Where have you worked? You know, what are you doing for recession? Just think. I mean, like any question that pops in your head that is somewhat work related, keep it in the work. Yeah? Say that again. Okay, so once you hear the whistle, you're going to move one up. So Carol moves to Tony, Tony moves to Orere, moves to Aki moves to Tosi, and what's your real name? I call him Bubu, so Bubu moves up here, yes? Okay. Alright. So that's 20 seconds more.
my best friend now. Yeah.
She gave me her card. I'm happy to give it to her.
have new sets, and we do a rotational program like what you call this, right? For 18 months, and during those 18 months period, we now look at okay, so where does Samuel have the best of his competencies? You understand, over these 18 months. So we have people from the service
Okay, one. If you don't have it, can you just signify one person? Also, you can even help. Okay, if you don't have just one person. Okay, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, can you just... The idea is to have all the stick notes on this flip chart board. So if you already written yours, you can just raise up your hand to collect it from you and we'll stick it for you. Okay? Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Ask this question so we can pull it together and send it to everyone. So we sort of have a bank of ideas that we can leverage. So if you think that you haven't shared it to your organization, but it's an idea that's come to you on how you can keep your employees engaged, please write it. You can just say, I think we can do that, I'm suggesting. So we can pull it together and email it to everyone. So we sort of like have a bank of ideas that we can probably leverage or build on. Is that okay? So don't get restricted by the question in itself, but what can we do to keep them engaged? What other things can we explore in terms of, well, I mean, you can take it in different directions, without necessarily just saying how can we survive or keep them engaged. Is that okay? All right. So, on the invite that went out, we said that the CEO of Islamic IBTC will be here tonight. But this very hour, is on the plane heading to the UK. He had no control over it, and it seems like, but I feel very conscious. Without much ado, I would like to introduce Mrs. Funke Amobi. She's the group head of HR for Islamic IBTC. That's all. Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much.
I wish she said don't say. Okay, good evening, colleagues. It's really, I feel very, when they say honored, I feel very quite honored to be the one to take this session instead of Yinka. But let me say up front that this is not Yinka's presentation. He was going to do a business presentation. But when we found that he was going to be out of the country, then it became an HR presentation. Is that okay? So this is what's next HR, not from the business perspective. So it's not a CEO answering the question or asking us the question. It is now a technical perspective. What do we think is next? Before I start my presentation, I know a bit of faces in the room. I wish I knew everyone, because this is a small HR community. I'm one of those people that think we should really know each other. So through the evening, I'm going to sort of just bring the microphone to anyone when I want your interaction or your contribution, and then kindly tell us your name and your company and what you do, and then we get to know you from there. But before I start the presentation, this question, because it permits me to say a word about it. Recession survival tips. The question says, what is your organization doing to keep employees engaged during this recession? When I saw it, I thought, it is so HR, isn't it? So HR. I'm not sure if the C's saw it, they would really feel very comfortable. I sort of felt we would be answering the wrong question. Can I rephrase the question? What is HR doing to support the organization to survive the recession? Is it the same question? It looks like they're two different questions. You know, in HR, we say, what are we doing to keep the employees engaged during this recession? And the first thing I saw, they said, we're promoting everybody this year. I say, man of God. How? We're talking about recession. So I said, maybe it's a question. I believe that we'll now come up with some excellent strategies so that we can then all compare notes. On this note, we're supposed to, can we see the slides? Or do we need to sort of like leave the room dark at some point in the front here? Okay, so the question or the focus for the next 20 minutes will be on imperatives and value adding HR for the future. What's next? I think it's better now then. What's next HR? Interesting question. But this question has been intellectually tackled by a guru in the house. When I say the house, HR family. So I thought that I wouldn't do anything. Looks like my clicker is not working. The father of HR, as they call him, Devoric, has asked the question. And I thought we should just sort of share our ideas on where we are today and what we think about, his thoughts. So I thought we should start the journey with him. And I'll tell you how I reflected on it. I just simply went into when this gentleman started thinking, what's next for HR? He wasn't just in this, if you like, he wasn't in this decade. So sometime in the late 90s, so I just picked a few of his books that helps the reflection of what's next for HR. Show of hands in the room, who has read any literature at all from Devoric? Just anyone at all. Show of hands. Written by Devoric. I thought I would have more hands in the room. Show of hands. Then we have a lot of assignments to do then on continuous professional development. Devoric, trust me, so these books are where to start from. When you think of HR professional, where we are today and where we're going. So he started in HR Champions as far back as 1997. I'm sure in the room we have a lot of human resource practitioners who are HCPs, HC business partners, correct? So Devoric was the individual who first conceptualized what is today known as the three-box model, who first said that this is the best way to organize HR activities to respond to support business effectively. And when he started that principle, it was way before 1997. So his biggest mantra is value. That HR's focus now and in the future should be on adding value. And that if we're not focused on adding value, that the business would begin to wonder if we need HR. So in the early days of this were not the early days of his writing, he was writing about value. He talked about the subject matter of HR champions. This is where he began to tell HR professionals that we need to become less administrative. He said we need to become less focused on HR services, supporting the business with administrative staff, setting the payroll, and all of the above. But we need to start championing other HR imperatives. Then he began to talk about the 4 roles of HR. HR needs to be a strategic business partner, play the role of a change agent, play the role of an employee advocate or employee champion, and finally play, what's the final role? Administrative expert, which is what he considers the list of all the HR imperatives. Then he moved on to say HR value proposition. I like this one. It's perhaps my favorite. He said, you know what? HR needs to deliberately craft their value proposition. And in defining value, he said value is best defined by the receiver and not the giver. He said, so HR, ask the business what value means to them. if your HR function has never in your history within your organization deliberately set out to ask your business, what does value mean to you? You may need to consider that as your what next. Because he said it's imperative. You must understand what value means to the business. Not imagine that I understand that value means to my business. And sometimes we think it's inferred. And value means to my business sales. Is we speak in this business in numbers of, some businesses speak in EBITDA. Some businesses speak in profit and loss. Some businesses speak in, profit and loss. Some businesses speak in asset and liability. Some businesses speak in very clear terms. In banking, we're looking at the NPL ratio. In banking, we're looking at CASA. We're looking at profitability ratio. We're looking at certain metrics. But don't assume that that's what your business considers value from HR. So, in this book, he begins to tell us, as far back as 2005, speak to your business. Understand what value means to them. Talk to your stakeholders. As a matter of fact, he has a tool, a simple questionnaire in that book that enables you to engage your business and understand what value really means. So in asking a few questions, you can sum it all up and you know exactly what area value your business is pointing to as value. And you can even audit your business, your HR support for the business presently using that questionnaire to say, so are we really adding value? Because it's a value-based questionnaire. And then moving on. In 2008, very closely after this, he begins to say, HR professionals should focus on their competencies and capabilities, which is why I was sad when the whole room hadn't read at least one of his books. He said, we now begin to talk about what competencies distinguish you as an HR professional ready to support the business. And he provided, right from here, he began to talk about competencies. He talked about 6 broad competencies in this book. By the time he got to this book, he was talking about 64 competencies that the HR professional must pay attention to developing so that you can respond to support the business effectively. Because this is not the focus of today's session, I'll move very quickly. Then he talked about HR transformation, which is where he begins to say, the HR of today, and that today has become yesterday, because remember it was 2009. He was saying the HR of today must think outside in, must think about the business, must coin every HR, must quit looking through the HR lenses, which is what I try to make us do with this question. Quit looking through the HR lenses and talk about business. Outside in, what is the business looking for? And then we contextualize HR in that space. When he finally got to HR, and you would have thought that HR transformation was the best of his outside in. In HR transformation, he started saying, by the time you decided that your HR function needs to transform, that you need to clearly articulate what your transformation agenda is in business language. So often we begin to listen. Just before the session started, I was having a chat with one of us who was talking about my business is now in startup mode. However, it's an existing business that has moved into a startup mode. Now the nuances of that business will be different, completely different from a normal startup business. So it's an old business that has been bought over and has now gone into a startup mode. Completely different from a startup business. So with human capital in both organizations, what's next would be typically different, though expected to have a common thread, because we're in a certain stage, we're in a certain environment, we're in a certain context that is common to all players. So if you stay with me, by the time he got here, he nailed it all. He came back again to 6 competencies and said the future HR professional must focus on building a cluster of 6 competencies. Recently, he went further to build what we called an assessment of those 6 competencies through a questionnaire or like a 360-degree assessment. And he sent it to, I just got one assessment in my mailbox one of those days, and I decided to go through it because it helps you assess yourself. How prepared am I for what's next? What should I be focusing on? So you can Google it up and take yourself through that assessment. It helps, it's like helping you to draw a development plan. Am I ready for what's next? What areas should I be paying attention to?
Having laid this background of the journey we did on, I thought we would, I'm not sure what's happening to this slide, but we're cutting up some bits up there. And this is what I'm saying. Macroeconomic realities, what are the implications for HR? We started talking about recession. What does this recession mean? Because if it doesn't hit home for us as HR professionals, we will not be able to help the organization translate the context we're talking about. I just returned from a roadshow in my organization as part of the employee engagement platforms and drivers. We have a people tour, an annual people tour, where HR, the HC team, led by myself, would attempt to visit, there's a target percentage that we attempt to visit across our geography. I imagine we've got 183 branches. So this time yesterday, I was busy. I just arrived maybe Port Harcourt from Asaba, running through all those branches. And in the evening sessions, one of the employees picked up the microphone. And said to me, so Fuge, what happened to some of the things we used to do in the past? Talking about what would HC do to help drive employee engagement in this session. It was very important for me that we don't get it wrong. And so she said to me, those things used to really make us very happy. I'm not engaged. I said, what? And this young lady said to me, we used to share rice, we used to share vegetable oil, we used to share. Should I continue? I'm sure you were sharing those things. I don't know if you're still sharing now. So she was with the microphone. And she was saying it to you, and some people I said, nothing. This is a room filled with hundreds of people. So I let them finish. Hey, people of God, share rice. Hey. What's the time on your wristwatch? What time of the day are we? Did somebody forget that we recently voted for change? They started laughing. I said, wait, what are you talking about? How much is the bag of rice? I had a choice at that minute, colleagues, I had a choice to switch to a complete HR node of I need to drive employee engagement. This is what matters to our people. After all, that's what we call it. In standing IBTC, we say a people tour session enables you to understand what really matters to our people. So if what really matters to our people is completely, off track from today's realities, it is a responsibility of human capital to enable the workforce to align to this reality. I don't know how better to say it. I took the next 5 minutes. By the time we were done that engagement, nobody wanted rice again. Because it was not a realistic request, is it? You can't tell me that's why you'll be disengaged. How? Why? At this time of the day? So if trailers of rice start arriving, and customers, everybody saying, where are all these rice trailers going to say they're sharing to their staff? What do you think the customers, everybody will say, these people don't even know what type of the day it is. They're really doing business. They're not close this bank tomorrow. Inflation, ladies and gentlemen, year on year, where the forecast says we're going to end at 18%. As human capital professionals, what does that mean to us? 18% inflation. Fire on the mountain. How are we going to talk about salary increases? We say we do cost of living adjustment, isn't it? Okay, what are we going to add? What percentage will you adjust for? What percentage will you adjust for? This calls for removing every cap and wearing every cap. What cost of living adjustments are you going to do? External reserves are declining. I won't bore you with the exchange rates because I think we all know what we're talking about. And just look at interest rates, look at what's happening. If we look at inflation forecast, as I said, some very good optimists have said to us, and I thought we should look at these figures because as human capital professionals, we are first of all business people, aren't we? So we should look at these indices and we should look at the tip of our fingers. So have a look. Some very good optimists are saying to us that inflation forecast will get better in the year 2020. That's how many years from now? We're talking about strategies for today. Don't forget the subject of this conversation. What's next? HR. This is our world. This is what is happening today. And if I now look at, did I move it too quickly? forecast exchange rates. Some good optimists are telling us that things will get better in the year 2020. We should be able to look at 380. This is our world. What next, HR? We are strategic business support. Decline in external reserve. Take a look at it. Take a look at the decline. This is the world in which we want to come up with. Let's even take this first question. We want to come up with strategies to keep employees engaged. Is that not cutting the picture too slim? You shouldn't be looking at the broader picture. Strategies to keeping the business alive in these days. Does this sound better? Look at what's going on globally. I know some people sit here at global organizations, international organizations. The picture is not any more exciting. Emerging global risks, huge escalations, tighter liquidity challenges across board. Look at it. Persistent downgrade in global economic activity everywhere. Big names, China, the United States, the big names, Europe, should we talk about Brexit and all of the above? The global economic environment is even more uncertain than some local, if you like, economies are. So in all of this, what's next, HR? I think we have to begin to do more with less. Help our organizations position to do more with less, whilst increasing ourselves in relevance and value. So I thought I'll paint a macroeconomic context so that we see, before we think what's next HR, within using just our HR lenses, we see the business we support. Then I thought I found the answer when I saw what the Orange said was next for us. He said that this is the end of the matter. This is what next for HC. That HC needs to begin to think about HC departments, HC practices, HR people, HR analytics and measures. And he said he asked a question. I don't know in what form he asked the question. He said he asked a question to a pool of HR professionals. What's your greatest business challenge? Can I ask who wants to volunteer to share your greatest business challenge? I don't just want to walk up to anybody. What's typically what's the biggest challenge that you call, that you call out to say, this is our biggest HR challenge for now. It doesn't matter, it could be anything. Somebody? Just call it out. After painting that economic environment, I'm sure, that macro environment, I'm sure our challenges are similar. What's the greatest challenge? Is it productivity? Is it keeping staff? Is it retaining your staff? Is it staff retention? Productivity? Getting the best out of staff? Sourcing forex. Hey, man of God. I said, what is the greatest HR challenge? He says sourcing. No. I want to stay on that you're sourcing forex. And I'm going to come back there. I like your answer. And they've already said something about your answer. He said that typically most of the answers he got were productivity, retention, attraction, mobility. He said mostly that's what he got. He was looking for somebody like Ayola to tell him that it is sourcing forex. Because that's wearing a business cap, isn't it? That is the greatest business challenge. So Dave said that we should start thinking in the context of HR analytics and measures, which links all this productivity and retention and attraction, links it directly into the business agenda. He says we should start thinking that when we start thinking HR analytics, then we are ready to have a conversation with the business. Have you been at a business meeting before as an HR person where they are saying to you, we want to discuss staff productivity? It is on your agenda, staff productivity. What do you go there to discuss? How do you discuss staff productivity? Let's think around that. How do you discuss staff productivity? In a management meeting, on the agenda, staff productivity, HR department. And you are the one accompanying your HR director to go and make that presentation. What are you going to talk about? How do you measure staff productivity? Yes, please.
It must be something that impacts on the bottom line of the organization.
Something that impacts on the bottom line of the organization.
Yes.
Okay. So how do you make that presentation? So you're standing in front of the board or your management and they say, start productivity, come with your slides. What's likely to be there? Absenteeism, I heard it. Call it out. Yes. Revenue, okay?
I'll probably take the direction of the business, and I think the business is probably interested in a measure like revenue per FTE.
Revenue per FTE. Now he's bringing it together now. He's saying that the business will be interested in measures. Measures like revenue per FTE. Thank you, Eniola. If somebody made it more interesting, staff productivity. Business says we should come and what's next? Delivering increase in value. Cost of production, cost per staff. And the business wants to see a trend analysis. Is it going down? Is it going up? Correct? Because right now they are interested in those numbers. The business wants you to analyze business data with people data, correct? Yes. So absenteeism, does that say anything to them? Not much. People are not coming to work. Then a smart CEO will say, those coming to work, are they working? First, I know they're not coming. We'll come to that later. That is obviously an issue. But those coming to work, what are they doing? How do we know that we have too many people? We don't have too many people. How do we know that with the size of the business, we shouldn't be looking at the numbers? How do we know that the value that people are bringing to the table is the maximum value that this number of jobs should be given off for this revenue that is coming in now? So Dave already says, what next? Human capital needs to begin to position itself in these 4 areas of investment. He says we need to, first of all, think very strongly about our strategy. He says, gone are those days where you say, you know what, it's sacrosanct, we must have just one HR strategy. You're responding to a business that's hugely volatile and dynamic. In my business, anyway, one strategy doesn't work. Well, one strategy or different people agendas. That's typically what we have. Because the businesses are different. My corporate and investment banking business is different from my personal and business banking business, which is where the branches are. It's different from the wealth business, which is where pension and asset management reside. So, one HR strategy, different people agendas. Otherwise, the heads of those businesses do not understand that you're supporting them. So he says we should start looking at strategizing per business area, even though there's an overarching corporate HR strategy. He says that there must be an alignment in all of these people imperatives. I like when he brings into performance. And when he talks about the globalization, when you look at all of this, you're asking yourself, is he still talking about HR? Is this still human capital? He says we should begin to look, key HR people must grow competence in these areas. We must have the competence to tell this story and tell it well. He talked about several waves of HR. He says that there are 4 waves that he sees that HR has been through since he has been writing about HR. And as we've seen, he's been writing for decades. He says it's been through waves. So in answering the question, what next for HR, I took the view that it depends on what wave you're operating at. However, he says HR people must begin to invest in their competences. If we can't speak this language, HR analytics, HT analytics, and measures, he says we should start thinking more of outcomes than the activities. And we should not just talk so that what will happen. Are we on the same page? He said the so that is the value you're adding to the business. We plan to promote so that what? You're promoting the person who's doing the same job. Size of the job hasn't changed, complexity hasn't changed. There goes your productivity. And there goes your revenue per staff. It's going to be fine. Because you've just shot up your cost and the productivity remained at the same level. So if the business is saying they want to promote, then that promotion conversation needs to be in another context. HR then needs to enable business to understand that jobs are in sizes. So when you want to promote, you have to be sure that this promotion will result into a higher profitability index measured by revenue per staff. If it was 10 naira per staff, with this promotion, you better become 15 naira per staff, correct? Not go back to 8 naira per staff. Otherwise, you build the business more harm. What next? HR. Adding value in a recession environment. Adding value. He says that if HC can focus on these 4 areas of investment, particularly HC analytics and measures, he says we'll be able to increase value, deliver increasing value. And I'm reaching for a landing on this final thoughts, which again I borrowed from him. This schematic is his. He said we've won. It's HR administration. We're looking at HR services. We're looking at HR, HR services, administrative part of HR, payroll, getting things done, providing timely service to business when they have inquiries on HC policies. He says wave 2, HR practices. We're taking it a step further, focusing on resourcing, on talent management, focusing on performance management, on reward and benefits, and we have packages that we're putting together HC or HR solutions across these specific domains. He says that's wave 2. He says wave 3, HR has become more strategic. This is the era of HR strategy. Maybe your team, your company, your HR function now does an annual retreat and you have an annual strategy. You have your HR strategy and you have an annual business plan or people agenda or what have you. Become more strategic, aligning business to HR. He says that's wave 3. He says that the final wave, which is where what next resides. This wave 4. Can we read it out?
HR context.
Can we read it again?
HR context.
Nigeria, what is the context? People of God, talk now. HR recession. That is our context. He says the truth of the matter is that when you get into the contextual form, you think like the business. The business thinks about its context. There's no business that is in a declining GDP. There's no business that is in rising unemployment and rising inflation index that is not thinking about some. What is the first factor that business is thinking about? Because it, let's shout it out. Cost. Who is most central to the cost conversation? People. Who is in charge of that dimension? You are. What are the implications of this for us? As one of us, I have to ask the question, what wave are you currently riding on? What are the implications for HCBPs? What do we need to begin to do differently, or think differently, or act differently? Okay, but I'm not in charge. Perhaps it's the time to provoke whoever is in charge and send a spanner in the works. Okay, I said we should go and fire our people. Who said that? That's got nothing to do with it. Something to do with it, perhaps. If you have excess people, if you have people not doing anything. But thinking about your structure, thinking about your cost structure, and everything that fits into it, the jobs are examined, the number of people, the health requirement, the optimal manpower planning, all of that are all the skills. Remember all the competencies that Dave Warwick has been talking about? All of that are all the skills that now need to be put to the table before we can have a conversation with the business in today's HR. Otherwise, we're just going to be seen as those HR people are coming in. The only thing they think about. In fact, some people think that anybody can do HR. Have you heard that before? How wrong they are. They are so wrong. Because I think that we are wired to be both. We are so strategic that we think beyond the numbers. Look at the way I said, we think beyond the numbers. Financial people only, I'm married to one, by the way, and they're such excellent people. That's only because I'm married to one. But I think the figures. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 plus 2 is equal to. But an HR person thinks like, so my husband is finance and I'm human capital. We've been married for 22 years. Wonderful. But I always know when he's thinking is completely 100% finance. And I'm saying, no, it's not just the money. The money will come, but we need to do certain things first. God bless Kaplan. Talked about balanced scorecard. We need, before the financial happens, we start from somewhere first. And then they're thinking, hey, what are you saying? But eventually I must see the money. So the finance person is show me the money. The HC person needs to understand the money and help the finance person to get to the money through the people. So So I was on my roadshow yesterday and one of my branch managers said to me, I just stopped by the branch. I didn't go there for the roadshow, but I couldn't just drive past. And I stopped, oh, hello, Funke. And you know, once I settle in, the first thing I'm asking you is your numbers. How are you doing? How's the business doing? What are your numbers? What's the ecosystem implication for you? I'm asking his numbers. And he said to me, oh, I'm ahead of budget, fully loaded by 35 million. I said, fantastic. If I don't hear you first, there's no conversation. Business first. What are your low lines and what are your highlights? Business, that's what I want to hear. So you are telling me in which of the sectors I'm struggling, in which of... When I finish that, listen to the train of thoughts. Then I ask, so what's happening on the cable side? So we didn't start with people. I didn't come and say, hey, how many people didn't come to work? What's your absenteeism rate? What's your... You say, what's wrong with this woman? I'm still trying to make my CASA figure, and she's talking about who didn't come to work. Those who came, I gave me the number. So he told me about, oh, how well he's doing, oh, my environment is strictly a public sector environment, the civil service environment, so certain big names are not in our books, you know. And we're talking, we must have that conversation. I understand where you're going. Okay, so within that context, how are you able to mind your ecosystem? Yes, we're building our own ecosystems because we don't have the big names on our books. They're communicating. On the people's side, tell me, what are the big issues? He said, no issues, the people are nice and happy. He said, but I think you may be able to help me. He made my day yesterday. I said, hey, how can I help you? He said, next year, my budget is very big. This is a business person talking. I asked you, what are your people issues? He said, no people, no issues really. You know typically the kind of answers we'll hear? I need staff, I don't have enough people. I need 8 people, they gave me only 4. Why should I come all the way from Lagos to come and hear that? Stop! I was driving through countries, through states, stopping by branches, you're telling me you need 5 people. Surely you can talk to somebody who's called beautiful woman, head of resourcing and talent. She'll take your numbers, she'll take your workforce plan and deliver on it. What are your big ticket people issues? Okay, you can help me. My budget is huge next year. Year on year growth for me is huge. But I think it is achievable. This was a standing conversation in the banquet hall. He said, it's achievable. I said, so tell me, how can I help you? He said, Then he got to that question. How can I keep my people engaged, motivated enough to go the extra mile, to walk this journey with me to achieve this number? Can somebody answer the question? And I said to him, okay, now we're talking. He said, that is the help I want from you next year. Okay. Immediately, I was already sending text and calling my people. Because action, the strategies are coming together immediately. He said, so how? He said, you know what, okay? I think that there must be a way around it. And you HR people can tell. They don't need all this official car, you know, all that subject matter. They don't need all of that. It's thoughts, that's my CE. And I could have just come to play them back. But these are the thoughts of a CE. But I thought, why don't we stay in the context of our profession and talk to ourselves on what's next for HR. So, contributions.
Okay, good evening. Thank you so much, Funke. You eventually ended up speaking business. And I think if Sonny is here, it's the same thing he would have said. So thank you so much for putting that thought in the room this evening. My question is, just like you mentioned, HR needs to begin to think differently. But again, the pace at which things are changing, so really talking about change management here, it's quite alarming. So as a HR person, you're thinking, you're strategizing, and the next minute things are changing. So I think for me, from your wealth of experience, the big question going out in my mind now is really around change management. How do you keep pace with the speed at which things are changing? Because you think of a strategy and before you even get to the point of execution and implementing, things have changed. How do you keep pace with that from your
agency capabilities as human resource professionals? By that he meant just understand how to be an agent of change. So ensure that you're even at the cutting edge of change such that you are navigating the business through the change and not the business, deciding what should happen. Now, this is where from my experience, to answer that question contextually, the pace of change is what it is. There's nothing I can do about that. It's volatile, it's dramatic. As a matter of fact, it's so impacted by externalities that there's nothing anyone can do about it. So it's what it is. So Brexit has happened. The impact of Brexit on the global landscape, there's nothing anyone of us can do about that. So if it's going to impact your business, it will impact your business. I think when human capital professionals, and in my experience, add the value, is really to begin to understand how to help the business navigate the impact of the change in a proactive manner. So it means that at HC, we must be at the cutting edge ourselves. So we shouldn't be the one, because sometimes I find that what really happens where the value is dropped is that we don't even know the change has happened ourselves. So you walk into the room, I don't know how many HC people have your way of understanding what is trending globally and what is trending in your industry locally. Because those are the triggers of change. So in my view, it is keep your eyes on your own triggers of change. Your own is different from my own. As I'm standing here now, CBN may have passed something yesterday, last hour. I need to understand how I can pick that up as quickly as possible and help the organization understand the impact of that change. I think that the answer should be, as much as possible, try to be ahead of the change. Considering the pace of the change is never possible all the time. You wake up to it sometimes, but it's what happens immediately after. I think you, as HR people, should take the lead, attempt to take the lead, and show the business how to navigate the change. That has worked for me. Because sometimes when the change, with the pace of change, the organization is not. So it's two things: attempt to take the lead. Secondly, help the organization develop the capabilities that will help the organization respond to the change. And I'll give you an example. So considering that IT, we know the wave of technology, and we know that before one has landed, the version of, if you like, the technical blueprint has landed, another version is already ready. So it means that the corresponding organizational capability will sound like innovation. So if you're in a highly volatile industry where change occurs in the speed of light, particularly one that is technically inclined, then you need to enable the organization to develop the capability that will help the organization respond to that. And that sounds like innovation. So HC needs to position itself to help such businesses drive innovation. That may not be your own. In your own context, if regulatory pressures is your biggest area of change, and I've just mentioned the CBN, if you're regulated and help your business develop the matching capability, so that before, even if 10 regulatory bills are passed overnight, because you've developed your compliance capability through your people, through your systems, through your structures, you are better able to respond. So I think that it is responding to change and not reacting to change that helps organizations grow. And HC has a responsibility in that role of change agent to help the business develop the matching capability to deal with change, whatever your own change trigger is. You must know what your change trigger is within your industry and within your context. Apart from doing that, HC is to take the lead to help the organization respond to the change. That, from my experience, has been what I think would work. We have a question: what's happening, what's trending? But we also don't take enough time to sort of like internally internalize, if there's any phrase like that. So, half the time, think about it was something personal, you're trying to crack something. I can't get over this light, I'm sorry. Yeah, so if you're, I need to go somewhere, I need to do something, I have a presentation, what do we typically do? We will sit, we will sort of internalize, you go through your slides, you do some research, you will process. And guess what? Things come to you, right? I don't think we stop enough to process individually. So I think if there's anything to take away as well, is to say, what might be happening in my industry? Because you guys know your industry is better than anyone else. Correct. What else can I be doing? You know your business leaders. What's the trend in banking again globally? And then bring it into context and say, what might we do differently? And just sit and process. Even if you're going to do it 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes, things will come to you because you are allowing the universe, quote unquote,
speak to you because you're also stopping for a minute to process. So I think we don't do enough of that, and that will help us because we sometimes have this information, but we're not gathering our thoughts enough to just process it internally.
Okay. Nigerian HR profession is going to. Now, so in situations where internalization has happened, how can we, for instance, I'm also in the banking sector, what can we do to help the profession in the industry? For instance, forums like this, are very helpful. You network and you get to hear a lot of other things. Take it back, do your internalization, and then go out. How can, there are a lot of issues in the banking industry, and we don't have too many HR people you're in telco. So coming to banking was, at least we had, okay, I knew how when she was in telco. So, but we don't have very many people in the industry for HR that you can actually say you're looking up to or something like that. So how can we help the profession, maybe in small pockets in the industries to
started happening differently recently. And one is the Chartered Institute of Personnel Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, is thinking differently. Haven't observed your point, and they're saying, you know, what can we do to institutionalize the support for the profession within the banking industry? So for one, I can tell you they've set up a mentoring platform.
Is it working?
No. It's so they set it up in the past and it wasn't working. So they revitalized it, regrouped it. So I was appointed to serve on that team, and that only just happened this year. So we're relooking the whole thing and bringing it together again to address your point. Recently, also in the last 2 months, thereabout, for the first time, we pulled together the body heads of human capital within banking, and we've had an inaugural meeting. So part of it is to address this gap that you nicely pointed out. So we're bringing the starting point is getting the platforms going, and then within the platforms we will begin to address issues, looking in various areas of HR. So thank you for bringing it up. Very valid. And people like Ngozi can also, external help too will help us. Do we have?
Maybe they are bogged down by something, looking at something else, but the ways are changing. How do you, what strategies can you use in pushing or provoking them to look beyond what the current waves where they are right now, and moving to other ways?
So, I'm hearing you say, how do we convince some of these heads of HR who are still like our own personnel? How do we get them, even though we are not, we're not the HRD, how do we get to convince them that, this wave is moving? Honestly, I wish I could just give you I think I should just give you that bullet answer that, you just use that pill and, headache goes away. But I'd like to throw the question to the House. What are those ways that you think, or if you've done that before? I have my views which I'll share, but I thought the House should help us. What are those, ways you've used in the past to influence your lead? Yes, Eniola. To influence your lead, to understand that things are becoming more stressful. We should do things differently. This is not quite what you should do.
I think there are 2 things you can do. You should demonstrate your competence on the job on a daily basis. And 2, you must also be able to demonstrate that you are constantly learning best practices, not only locally but also internationally. Once you can demonstrate those 2 things, I think you will begin to see a shift in attitude to those higher ups that you report to within the HR function.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Any other?
CEO, as HR, if you have an initiative, you need to be able to sell the benefit. You need to be able to, because what you don't want also is to make him feel like the things he's doing, don't make any sense. Yes. So it's helping him see it in a different way. And at times you really need to put facts on the table. Numbers speak any day, and you can't argue with numbers. So help him see also how it connects to the business and how he takes all the glory for it. Because at the end of the day, you don't want it to say like, oh, I'm the one who saved everybody from this, but you want to be sure that he's the one who looks good at the end of the day.
Okay.
Okay, I will echo our thoughts, but I will add something to it. The way and how you go about it is key. The way and how you go about it is key, because sometimes it's about generational change. It's about generational change. So it's how you engage, your style of engagement. I had this experience challenge in 2007. I was doing job evaluation, and I had to work with an expert who was miles away on vacation. And imagine a project that business has invested millions of dollars, and you say, sorry, I haven't read your email, I'm on vacation, and I was downcasted. And after, I was new to the organization then, so I had to speak to people, and I was told, hey, you need to manage this guy, and today we're best of friends. So it's about all that she said and how you go about it. Please, sometimes, how you bring about innovation. Yeah, sometimes when people are willing to listen to you, but maybe your courage, your approach is what is killing the message. So we need to be mindful of all this. It's a connection, like she said, HR, you are particular about the money, but how about the money? You are particular about the value you are bringing to the table, but how are you bringing about the value? So sometimes, that's where your interpersonal skills, your style of engagement, and all these things come to play. And sometimes, it's not always said, but you need to massage on everything.
Just be yourself and keep doing that correct thing. And you get to a point, it's okay, if you want, what do you have to say? But they may not do that thing, but they recognize that you're a force to reckon with, sort of, when it comes to this kind of situation. Candor has worked, interpersonal skills have worked, but I haven't reached the point yet where it has broken it out, but keep at it. So
is how you're selling it. Sorry, it's what you do, what you're selling, why you're selling it, which is the what. Oh, there's a change. There needs to be a change. The why, the figures and the facts and the benefits of why bother about this change. As they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why bother? So you must articulate your call for transformation. Before you even begin the journey, get the what right, get the why right, get the how right. I don't use words like humble, but please, be humble about it. So it's not like you're so old school, you don't know anything. Me, I'm the one that knows. I've read Theoric, 5 Theoric books. You don't even know what Theoric is. You have lost it. He or she is head of the function anyway. He's not going to listen to you. If you're not so careful, you may be on the next executive seat. So it is the what, the why, the how, and the when. Position it at the right time. So don't go and be raising the conversation at a time when there's pressure on the function by the business to achieve something else. Allow that pressure blow away. Support that up. So it doesn't look like you're running your own campaign, there are 2 agendas around. Because there must be order. HR people should support an effective organization. An organizational climate is also built about, is built by how work is done. So our ways of working must be such that support the change that we're trying to drive. And as in your last step there, be the change you want to see. Bring that expertise to table. Be sure that they can see that the quality of your work is different and you are speaking in a different language. Bring yourself up to skill consistently. Consistently. Don't be the one attacking what everybody's doing and say, you know what, this one, old school, error. Every time they ask you to comment, you're saying something negative about somebody's work, you're not going to get the support from your colleagues to make that change. And I believe that anybody can spark up the change. You don't have to be the head of function. You can spark up the change as a support. You can spark up the change as a support of a support. You just need to understand, and I think it's an exciting place to be if you have an opportunity to make a change. It's an exciting place to be. But remember the what, the why, the how.
Start up at 6:30 on the dot, but we say start time is 6 so that people can sort of gather and get a quorum. We would like to give gifts to our first 10. Can we quickly put a gift accounting? Okay. The first 10, what do you call them? Early birds, right? So that will look at I think you get some jobs outside the challenge. You see what? You make the hand, okay? Linda, I just said. Linda, okay? Can you stand so it's probably easier? Boomerang, can you stand? That's normal. Ezekiel, that's on here. Tosi Owosheni, can you stand, please? Toba Oye Ule, Uche Odunze, Ezekiel is up front. Toba, okay, we have Michael Momo. Just stand up, please, and Julia Wasaki. Yeah, okay, first time, okay. First time, okay, so we have, are we all? Raffle, okay? A sheet of paper, but do better sheet of paper, people. Next time I will not accept sheet of paper. Post-it note, okay. Alright, so, Howard. Yes. So you didn't even close it, like, easy peasy. Okay, you see what? Alright. You see what? Alright. If it's a movie, if that wrong, we'll have you pick two. Maybe it's easier, yeah. Okay, fine. We take two. Yeah, two is fine. Okay. Alright, I have Tintope Balogun. Okay, and we have their colleague though. If they are cut that. Oh, okay. Jola Osho Bode. Okay. Alright. Okay, that's all. How many? But pick another one, please. We have Bam Inika. Bam. Where are you, Bam? Alright. And we have Abayami Adebanjo. Alright, great. Okay. Someone will pick two more. You have Kemi Adetuba. Kemi, she here. Alright. So yeah, we have picked up for that. You're going to pick the rest of the things in the book. We have Yewande Ojobe. Yewande. Okay, so that for me. 6 more. How many? 6 more. Michael Imomo. We have Julia Basaki. The early birds, yeah. We have Benga Gideon. You guys, there was a perfume people spray today from your company. Yeah? Yes. We have Abiola Akoni. Okay. We have Ezekiel, your colleague. They are qualified by your own. Okay, we can give Ezekiel another, maybe a stamping gift. We can give him a stamping gift instead of. I think, how many more? Feyi Kolade. So you get the Feyi Kolade. There we go. And then one more. Femi, hello, Jede. Alright, thank you so much, Dako. Alright, Carol, we're going to pick how many more left? 5? You pick 5 more, please. 4 more. I close my eyes now. You hold the book for her. Okay, you know what? That's good. Yeah. Okay, sorry. But this is I don't know. I didn't look. I don't know about anybody. So we want to ask questions. We want to give 2 gifts to people. 2 questions instead of 4. So you're going to just pick 2. Any 2 from this. Okay. And then drop the other 2. And then we're going to ask 2 questions. Yes? Okay, thanks. Egoy. She has left, okay, so you have to pick another one. If anyone, yeah. Or maybe not, maybe we should down to 3 questions. There we go. Okay. Good. Let's see that the learnings were embedded. Who can name, if you throw out the answers, you disqualify, you have to raise your hand, we have to pick you. Who can name 4 of the Warwick books that were put up today on the journey? 4 of the Warwick books. HR people. They say don't fall my hand, right? Is that not the phrase? Who is going? Who is bold? Stand. Michael, you can't win the game now. Michael, please. Okay, Martin.
HR champion.
Yeah?
Outside HR.
Fast.
HR transformation.
2. Okay, Polake.
HR champion, HR value propositions, HR transformation, HR competency.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay. So, let's look for the harder one. Another thing. The 4 domains of HC for increasing value. 4 domains. Who remembers? 4 domains. You want to go? Okay. Okay, yes.
Analytics and measurement.
HR analytics and measurement, okay.
HR process.
No process, try again.
HR strategy. HR people.
Yes, 2.
We have, okay, 2 months ago, HR department. HR process.
Practices.
HR admin.
Yes.
HR strategy.
Practices, yeah. That mic is not, okay, hold on. So I hear you admin practices.
Yeah, HR strategy.
Take.
Okay.
Okay, let's go again. Yeah, HR admin. Go ahead. You said HR admin.
HR admin, HR practices, HR strategy, then HR context.
All right. So some of us at this point don't say first like that. It won't be. It might be love the process. So go through the process and order it because at least we'll, if not.
Go ahead, Joshua. Come on.
Yes, we're supposed to freeze for about a minute. Okay?
Like a mannequin.
Yes, like a mannequin. So whatever you're doing, you just freeze for 1 minute. When I blow my whistle, then the 1 minute is over. Okay? Please don't spoil the competition, don't spoil the challenge. Don't blink your eyes and just flow. Are we good? Okay. So the focus should be on the house. Stella, don't. No, you don't have to. What is that?